filler gets a bad rap. Now, sometimes it's deserved, looking at you, Naruto, but I don't know. I tend to actually like the filler in Dragon Ball Z a lot of times. Now, I've been working on a video about Frieza, and since I need a bit more time to finish it because, well, it's Frieza, and since I want to stick to this self-imposed schedule of uploading every other Friday, I think it makes sense to make this filler video about filler, I guess. By the way, thanks for the support on the last couple of videos. I expected them to get like a dozen views each at most, but I'll take a couple hundred, even thousand instead. That's pretty cool. And I genuinely appreciate the discussion in the comments, so please keep it up. That's been really neat. And additionally, if you're new around here, and which you probably are because we're a tiny channel, just started, but if you like Dragon Ball Z related content, make sure you like and subscribe because we got plenty more where this is coming from. So yeah, anyway, this video is about filler in Dragon Ball Z. Ask anyone, but Dragon Ball Z has some of the best filler in all of anime, and a lot of it's actually worth watching, often even adding to the story in a pretty meaningful way. I know some people like Kai for getting rid of a lot of the filler, but that's actually one of my biggest gripes with it. I don't really want to watch the Dragon Ball Z anime without iconic filler like Gohan and Goku's days before the Cell games, the Driver's Ed episode, etc. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because today I'm going to be talking about my 4 favorite filler episodes slash arc slash whatever in Dragon Ball Z in no particular order, except for number 1. That one actually is my favorite. Why 4? I don't know. It's my lucky number. So make sure that if I leave any of your favorites out, you go down into the comments and tell me what they are. All right, at number 4, we have the Mr. Robot episode. So just to set the scene, Raditz has been defeated and the Saiyans are now on their way to Earth. The Z Warriors, of course, have just under a year to prepare, and Piccolo, having witnessed the potential depths of Gohan's power during the fight with Raditz, decides to take him under his wing to train him into a hardened fighter in preparation for the arrival of Nappa and Vegeta. Things start off about how you would imagine, with Gohan crying and whining, just like in the manga, and after all, he's only 4 years old, so kind of understandable. However, over the course of 6 months, he starts to harden up and fend for himself, and it's only then that Piccolo agrees to start training him personally. Now in the manga, other than a brief scene of Gohan changing into his Uzaru form and Piccolo having to step in, we skip ahead to Gohan already being pretty capable, making child's play out of a big old dinosaur that just a few months ago was terrorizing him. But in the original uncut version of the anime, we get a much more extended take on his training as he learns to survive in the wilderness by himself. This whole section of the anime is actually pretty good, with a lot of people pointing to the storyline when Gohan meets the orphans, and admittedly that is a very good one. That shows a lot of Gohan's growth and being overall a pretty emotional episode. However, I want to focus our attention to an episode earlier, which is episode 9 in the anime, titled The Strangest Robot. This episode starts after Gohan awakens from his incident as a big monkey, and his tail is now gone, and he's got this sick new outfit. And I feel like I say this a lot, but this drip is too good, and the sword really pulls it all together. I kind of wish he had this costume in more games. Seriously, what's with Dragon Ball Z games leaving all the best costumes out of the game? I don't understand that to this day. There are so many costumes that just aren't in various games. Like, how does Tenkaichi 3 or anything else not have a Badman Vegeta shirt or whatever? I don't know. Anyway, I digress. So Gohan gets up to some shenanigans, kind of thrown off balance because his tail is gone now, and he ends up getting himself stuck in a cave in the desert. There he meets what is a C6 model Capsule Corporation robot, and after waking it up, he starts to build a little friendship with it. I'm not going to go through the details of the whole thing here, as if you haven't seen the episode, I definitely suggest that you go back and watch it for yourself, because it's actually a very emotionally impactful series of scenes, culminating in Gohan having a breakthrough with his character, in which he risks his own safety to save his new friend, which shows a new level of bravery that he hasn't displayed before up to this point. Quick spoiler, Mr. Robot, as Gohan calls him, and no, not the lame version, the cool version, ends up sacrificing himself to save Gohan. And props to the English dub, Stephanie Nadolny actually puts on some serious work in this episode. Just take a listen to this. Yeah, so dub haters kick rocks, pendejo. Yeah, it's a good one. It's pretty short, but it's nice and sweet, and I think it's a solid filler episode worth revisiting if you haven't in a while, or if you've never seen it at all, maybe check it out. Number 3, we're going to be talking about Goku meeting an old quote-unquote friend. So in the days before the Cell games, in the anime, we get some fan-favorite episodes starring Goku and Gohan as they get into some minor adventures in the lead up to what is essentially the end of the world. There's a few different episodes that we could point out here, but I think my personal favorite is the one titled The Puzzle of General Tao. In this one, Goku is walking around with his blonde self locating Dragon Balls, and he finds out 2 balls are in possession of a comical gangster named Vodka and his goons. This episode is just a lot of fun because Goku's whole innocent personality here gets me pretty good. He's completely oblivious to the fact that he's waltzing into like this heavily fortified fortress run by a crime boss, and he just kind of asks them nicely for the Dragon Balls. And then he accidentally manhandles the mooks in the room, and we get a reveal of one of Goku's childhood friends, I guess you could call him. It's the good old General Tao himself, all cyberized from being destroyed by Goku in the first part of the series. Goku, being so innocent, he instantly greets him like he's this old buddy in the English dub, stating, "I know we've had our differences, but it's really good to see you." Now imagine that, seeing a guy who tried to murder you as a child and framing it as, quote, "we've had our differences." Scenes like these just honestly make me appreciate Goku a lot more as an adult than I did as like an edgy teenager. So anyway, Goku shows off his strength by easily bursting through the protective dome thing that Vodka puts up just with his finger, and Tao, remembering what an absolute monster Goku is, comes up with a plan. He gives Goku these little puzzle ring things, saying that if he can solve them, he can have the Dragon Balls. And so then, instead of Goku just saying, "Hey, screw this," like Vegeta or Piccolo probably would have, he actually agrees to do the puzzles. The other henchman who stays behind even kind of cheers him on while he's working on them, and so he eventually completes the puzzle, teleports to General Tao, and the old bad guy is just kind of like, "All right, I guess you win fair and square. And also, I don't want to be murdered by you again, so here you go." And he hands over the Dragon Balls. This episode has a lot of funny moments, and it shows an older side of Goku that I really appreciate, kind of displayed by his unwillingness to get violent or cheat to get what he wants. At one point, the previous henchman offers to just tell him the solution, but Goku, being too honorable for that, is like, "No, I'm gonna figure it out on my own. That's fair and square." I don't know, it's just pretty good. And by the way, Goku is for sure a heroic character. That will probably get its own video at some point. Moving on from that, we get to our number 2, which is actually more like an entire arc than just an episode, but it's gonna go to one of my favorite parts of the series when I was a kid, and that is the Otherworld Tournament. Following Goku's death at the hands of Cell, he goes back to heaven to train with King Kai, who is also dead. Y'all know the story. Anyway, we meet this little weirdo, who is the rival of King Kai. See, we learn that King Kai is lord of the northern quadrant of the universe, so he's the North Kai, and this little purple guy is the West Kai, and they kind of hate each other. Well, it turns out West Kai has some sick new fighter that he wants to show off, believing that there is no fighter in the northern quadrant that can challenge him, and of course, King Kai has Goku, so he's confident that this is not the case. After some back and forth, everyone gets word that Cell and some of the older goons in the series, like Frieza and his dad and the Ginyu Force, are running amok in hell, and Goku is sent to handle them. Naturally, he's a little on guard since the guy who put him in the afterlife is one of the ones causing issues, but he goes, accompanied by one of the coolest filler characters in the series, Pikkon. I like Pikkon a lot. I think he has a sick design and some cool moves, and he shows off how strong he is by one-shotting all the bad guys going crazy in the underworld, including Cell. By the way, as an aside, I once had this like sticker/coloring book thing as a kid that had Pikkon in it, and one of the trivia questions asked what race of aliens Piccolo and Pikkon belonged to, stating that Pikkon was also a Namekian. No, he's not. I guess the people making the book were racist and think that all green aliens are the same, because like seriously, how could you think these two guys are from the same species? Anyway, the tournament approaches, and it's a pretty sick little filler arc, showing off some neat fights, but of course the main event is Goku versus Pikkon, and again, it's pretty sick with a dope soundtrack, by the way, if you're watching the Funimation version. Pikkon's theme is one of the best in the series, in my opinion. It's one of my favorite anime tracks of all time, actually. During the fight, Pikkon shows off some pretty cool moves, with fire seeming to be his sort of like elemental power, using this move called the Thunder Flash attack. Could you have a more generic name for a dope move like this, though? But anyway, after some back and forth, Goku ends up winning, but it turns out that at one point in the fight, both fighters landed on the ceiling of the arena. And so the Grand Kai, this old man here, disqualifies them both. The funny thing is, the big prize for winning the tournament is supposed to be like a private lesson with the Grand Kai, but it's implied that the geezer is nervous because Pikkon and Goku are both so far beyond him in terms of power, and so he actually used a loophole to get out of having to teach them. It's pretty funny, and honestly kind of reminds me of somebody. By the way, a Hercule Satan Gundam video is definitely in the future. I freaking love that guy, and he's the actual MVP of the series. All right, maybe that's a little overstated, but I like Hercule Satan a lot, and yeah, we're gonna be making a video about him at some point. That's really all there is to say about that one. It's pretty fun, you know, some cool fights, some cool stuff, a couple new characters that are introduced that I think are totally neat. Let's move on to number 1. Now for the ultimate piece of filler artwork, the absolute greatest of all time when it comes to filler in all of anime, with nothing else having ever come close in a million billion years. That's right, we're talking about Nappa and Vegeta on planet Arlia. Just kidding, we're obviously going to be talking about Princess Snake. Okay, I'm kidding again, but for real this time, we are talking about the actual best scene, which is the amazing Driver's Ed episode. This is one that people point to all the time, and it's definitely one of my favorites. It's the one where Goku and Piccolo are trying to get their driver's licenses. So the episode gets its start with Chi-Chi being an unappreciated housewife slash mom for 2 superpowered monkey aliens. Seriously, put yourself in this woman's shoes. Chi-Chi gets way too much hate, and she ends up getting chased home while trying to bring home some groceries. When she gets home, Goku and Gohan whine about their clothes being dirty, and they run off to get cleaned up, and Chi-Chi reaches her breaking point. You see, she wants that bum-ass husband of hers to get a driver's license so she does not have to get chased home by a giant monster. Or else, he has to start cooking his own food. Gasp, the horror. By the way, knucks up for my fellow boys out there who are actually better cooks than our wives. Just don't tell her I said that. Now, somehow Piccolo also gets caught up in this one, even though canonically he doesn't even have to eat food, but whatever. He's my favorite character, and he's along for the ride, so to speak, so let's freaking go. And off they do go, and Piccolo is wearing the absolute most iconic outfit he has ever worn, and it is a crime against humanity that he has never worn this again, and that he hardly ever has this drip as an option for his costumes in video games. Like seriously, I went over this before, but are you guys drunk? Look how sick this is. I have this crap on my keychain, dude. Anyway, it's a really fun episode. Goku and Piccolo, being the competitive boys that they are, end up getting into a race with each other, crashing their cars and failing the test. So they do get a second chance, and Piccolo is actually doing pretty well, except his instructor is this like fiery redhead with serious road rage problems. And honestly, I can relate to her a little bit. Piccolo is probably what my wife feels like when she's in the car with me during rush hour traffic. So fast forward a bit, and during a lightning storm, a cliche on 4 wheels gets hit by some rocks that causes the bus full of nuns and orphans or whatever to fly off the edge. Goku not wanting to reveal their powers for some reason, and why is this always a thing, by the way? What do they care if people know they have powers? Have the people of Earth already just forgotten about Nappa running rampage on them earlier? Anyway, Goku doesn't want to reveal his powers, so he tries to use his car to stop the bus, but it doesn't work, so they end up having to bite the bullet and use their abilities to save the kids. They fail their driving test again, of course, but the instructor rightfully points out that having their kinds of abilities is way better than driving a dumb car, and honestly, that's pretty fair. Ask me if I would rather have super strength and be able to fly, or have my driver's license and I can only pick one. I think it's pretty obvious what most of us would pick. This one's a really fun and cool piece of filler, and most people like it for a good reason. It's worth noting, by the way, that Goku apparently went back and got his license for real, as there are scenes of him driving in the manga, and so good for him. I don't think Piccolo ever did though. So yeah, anyway, that's gonna be all for today. A pretty short one, but again, this is kind of a filler video while I work on the Frieza stuff, but I had a lot of fun actually watching some of these episodes back and writing up this little essay, so let me know if you'd be interested in a part 2, because there's actually a lot more filler that we could talk about. Dragon Ball Z is full of good stuff in terms of filler, and we didn't even get into like Garlic Jr. or Krillin's girlfriend or Kid Buu invading Otherworld. You know what? Whatever. Screw it. We're doing it whether you want it or not. Wait.